15 Things You Didn't Know About Dan Brown. Welcome to Alux.com, the place where future billionaires come to get inspired. Hello Aluxers, and welcome back to our channel for a brand new video. You know we like to keep things varied, so today we're going to talk about a very notorious writer, the famous Dan Brown. He was the eldest of 3 children in Exeter, New Hampshire. He did his schooling from Phillips Exeter Academy, which was considered to be a highly exclusive school. His father was a mathematics instructor at that same school, and his mother, on the other hand, was a music professor, chiefly involved in practicing very revered music. Even though Dan Brown attended open enrollment schools, until he entered the 9th grade, he lived with his family and also proactively took part in college-related activities, which were also influenced greatly by Christian norms and traditions, such as singing hymns in the church and going to college camp. Dan Brown grew up to be one of the best-selling authors of modern times. A few of his best works have been made into blockbuster movies. Brown's novels are published in 54 languages around the world, with 200 million copies in print. The Davini Code, written by Brown, triggered a lot of questions within the Christian faith, which led to him being featured in the 100 Most Influential People in the World list by Time magazine in the year 2005. The Davini Code was also recorded as one of the top-selling best novels of all time. If you're new here, welcome. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on Instagram at Alux. But let's just get right to it, shall we? Here are 15 things you didn't know about Dan Brown. Number 1. He tried to become a musician. After graduating from school, Brown went to Amherst College to obtain a degree in English and Spanish. He graduated in 1986 and then later spent numerous years trying to get himself established as a singer-cum-songwriter and pianist, but unfortunately, it was met with very minimal success. Interestingly, one of his albums was titled Angels and Demons, a title he used again later for one of his books. Nevertheless, these attempts did allow him to relocate to Los Angeles, where he took up the profession of teaching Spanish at Beverly Hills Preparatory School in order to get himself a steady income. Number 2. His upbringing was a mix of science and religion. His parents came from opposite ends of the belief spectrum. His mother was a church organist who was religious. His father was an agnostic college professor. "I gravitated towards science," Brown said once. Faith was difficult for him. Although Mr. Brown comes out strongly in favor of science, both in person and in his novels, he cannot give up the possibility that there is something else out there. "It's probably an intellectual weakness," he said, "but I look up at the stars and say, there has to be something bigger than us out there." Number 3. He dedicated some of his books to his mother. His first book, published at the age of 5, was called The Giraffe, the Pig, and the Pants on Fire. He dedicated it to his mother. Origin is also dedicated to her. Her initials CGB appear very faintly on the back cover of the book. Mr. Brown credits his father with instilling in him a love of science, math, and intellectual puzzles, and his mother, who was religious but became disillusioned with church and politics, with instilling in him a wonder for the mysteries of the world. Number 4. His wife is 12 years his senior. He met his wife, Blythe Newlin, in LA. She's actually 12 years his senior and served as the artistic director of the National Academy of Songwriters. Dan Brown released 4 music CDs, which gained him backers for his music, but his reclusive nature proved to stagnate his music career. Because of their unequal work relationship, he and Blythe dated in secret for several years. Mr. Brown said at one point even attending the Grammys together, along with fake dates to conceal the romance. Number 5. He is one of the richest authors in the world. In 2005, Dan Brown was reported to have earned $76.5 million from his writing alone. The same year, he was listed in Time magazine's 100 Most Influential People list. His net worth is reported to be over $120 million. His masterpiece, The Davini Code, was published in March 2003 and sold nearly 6,000 copies on its very first day and reached the New York Times bestseller list in its very first week. Brown is credited with a combined sale of over 200 million copies of his book. His novels have been translated into 54 languages. Do you want to find out some more about the richest and most influential people in the world? Check out our top 10 richest families in the world by clicking in the top right corner. Number 6. He wrote a book under a pseudonym. In 1998, Brown and his wife published The Bald Book, a hilarious and heartwarming collection of drawings and captions celebrating baldness. Credited to his wife Blythe, who also did the book's illustrations, it is widely accepted to have been written by Dan Brown. The couple, writing under the pseudonym Danielle Brown, also wrote another humor book, 187 Men to Avoid, a guide for the romantically frustrated woman. Number 7. His wife has a taste for the macabre. Mr. Brown says his wife, Blythe, has a fixation with death, adding she once literally took him on a date to a cemetery. In their house, a dining room sideboard contains a tableau featuring taxidermied animals like a fox and a pheasant. The house is also full of paintings, sculptures, and unexpected additional works by Blythe herself, who, like we said, has a taste for the macabre. A table in the kitchen holds an Hieronymus Bosch-like sculpture filled with tiny skeletons and other objects swirled together in a hellish configuration. Number 8. He doesn't take days off. Dan Brown is a wealthy man who earns millions through his books, yet he never takes a day off. He rises at 4 a.m. each day and prepares a smoothie made of blueberries, spinach, banana, coconut water, chia seeds, hemp seeds, flax seeds, and protein powder. He also makes a so-called bulletproof coffee with butter and coconut oil, which he says changes the way the brain processes the caffeine to sharpen your mind. The author also never deviates from his writing routine, even during Christmas. Number 9. He does push-ups every hour. Dan Brown takes a break every hour from writing to do push-ups. His computer is programmed to freeze for 60 seconds each hour, during which time Mr. Brown performs push-ups, sit-ups, and anything else he needs to. Though he stops writing at noon, it's hard for him to get the stories out of his head. It's madness, he says of his characters. They talk to you all day long. Number 10. Dan Brown's house is built like a puzzle. Dan Brown lives in his $10 million house in New Hampshire. The house is a lot like his novels, with plenty of secret doorways and passageways. The office in which Dan Brown writes his novels is hidden behind a painting. Pressing a button in the painting leads you into his office. The house features a magnificent library, which has copies of all of his books in every language they've been translated into. Dan Brown calls his library the Fortress of Gratitude. As you might have guessed it, the library has lots of secret doors and passageways as well. Are you curious about who owns the most expensive house in the world? Check out the top 10 most expensive houses in the world video to find out more. Number 11. He has an interesting way of dealing with writer's block. Like most authors, Dan Brown says he suffers from writer's block. To deal with this, he just hangs himself upside down in his house using a piece of equipment and gravity boots. Hanging upside down seems to help me solve plot changes by shifting my entire perspective, he said. This unusual technique is known as inversion therapy, and it's said to improve concentration and memory by increasing the amount of blood flow to the brain. Actress Rosie O'Donnell is also reportedly to be a fan of this relaxation technique. Number 12. He has experience on movie sets. Dan Brown and his wife appear briefly as extras in the 2005 John Travolta and Uma Thurman film Be Cool. They can both be seen in the front row of the audience during the scene filmed at the Aerosmith concert. Another experience on a movie set was at the Louvre, when Brown was present on set during the filming of the Davini Code, in which Tom Hanks plays the Harvard symbologist Robert Langdon. The filming happened at night, when the museum was closed to the public. Brown recalls looking at the Mona Lisa at 3 a.m. alone as one of the most vivid memories. And he shared things overheard on set, things he never imagined he would hear in real life, like, "Move the corpse 3 feet to the left, just don't get any blood on the Caravaggio." And, "Could someone please get Mary Magdalene a Diet Coke?" Number 13. He didn't get very high ratings from critics. Despite his astonishing commercial success, Dan Brown is not rated high by critics. Salman Rushdie described Brown's breakthrough book, The Davini Code, as a book so bad it makes bad books look good. Actor Stellan Skarsgård, who appeared in the film adaptation of Angels and Demons, is also scathing of Brown's work. "I think Dan Brown is a terribly bad writer, but he has cliffhangers after every chapter, which makes you continue reading," he said. "It's like eating peanuts at a bar. You don't like them, but you keep eating them anyway." Number 14. He's been attacked by religious groups. The Vatican basically called the Catholic churches and said, you boycott this book, and you go and you preach the gospel and you say that Dan Brown is telling lies. Brown says he does not consider himself to be against religion, adding that religion does an enormous amount of good in the world. At the same time, he says there are factions in every religion that take the metaphors and the myth of scripture and hold them up as literal fact. That is the danger of any philosophy or any religion. Number 15. He owns a self-driving car, a Tesla. It's the same car owned by billionaire Edmund Kirsch, the Steve Jobs-like character he created for his book Origin. In an interview with the Dallas Morning News, Brown talked about adjusting to his wheels. He says, when I drive to Boston, I don't touch the wheel for an hour. Kids right now who are 10 years old will never learn to drive cars. As crazy as it is to think about, he's probably right. And that's it for today, dear Aluxers. Now we're curious to know, which one of Dan Brown's books did you find the most intriguing? Let us know down in the comments. Still here, are you? Well, how about that bonus fact? He doesn't enjoy reading novels. Despite being a novelist himself, Dan Brown dislikes reading fiction and finds it difficult to get through a novel. He prefers literature that is instructive and, ideally, not wholly invented. He says, I feel like if I'm going to take the time to read, I better be learning. Even when referencing his own work, he has said, this is the kind of fiction I would read if I read fiction. Thank you for spending some time with us, Aluxers. Make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss another video. We also handpicked these videos, which we recommend you watch next. Thank you for being an Aluxer, and we'll see you back tomorrow.